So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Major League Baseball. There are a few stories that we do need to recap on this week. So first of all, spring training is officially here. Teams are playing. And first, let's talk about Rob Manfred.
So Rob Manfred announces he's going to retire January 25th, 2029. Roughly 5 years left from about now.
Mm-hmm.
He's making roughly $25 million per year. He's currently 65 years old. So he'll be 70 years old when he finally does retire.
Making $25 million a year to be the second most hated person in baseball right now. That's tough.
Is the first most Trevor Bauer?
No, the first most is definitely a player that we're gonna talk about here in a minute. Yeah, we could definitely talk Trevor Bauer if you want to talk Trevor Bauer.
We need to do a video on Trevor Bauer again. But anyways, so big news from Rob Manfred. As far as MLB expansion goes, he announces he would like to have an expansion plan set up before he retires in 2029, which means 5 years. Hopefully they have a plan for expansion. ESPN puts out an awesome list of the 10 cities that are, kind of front runners for MLB expansion.
Well, first, before we talk about the cities that they're expanding to, let's first talk about, when we talk about expansion, the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that I hate how Utah got used as a bargaining chip for this. It feels like the A's intentionally just came here and danced around with us a little bit just to, to entice, Oakland and Sacramento to up their offer. Because obviously, I don't believe, based off of our video that we posted last week, folks, by the way, thanks for tuning into that. I don't think that the A's are coming to Utah. So
it really doesn't look like it, huh?
No, I don't think so. And honestly, I can explain why that's good for Utah, but we'll definitely talk about that next week.
Okay.
But yeah, so now Big League Utah, the ownership group of Utah, does need to pivot to more the possibility of expansion. Now, the good thing about expansion is that we're going to get a brand new team if we're there. The bad news is that, just to your point, he wants everything in place by 2029, which means it's going to be in the 2030s before an expansion actually happens.
None of these places actually have a stadium in place, right? It's going to take 2 to 3 years for anybody to build a stadium. So if you want to be playing in an expansion in 2030, you've got to make a decision in the next year or two for somebody to build a stadium. You've got to put together all the financing. There's only a couple locations of these 10 cities that have shovel-ready locations ready to build a stadium right now. Some of them are close. Some of them are nowhere near. And that's one of the things that we need to talk about, right?
Perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and you break down the list there by ESPN on the top 10 places for expansion. We'll kind of dive into them each individually and kind of go from there.
Okay, perfect. And these are just in alphabetical order for the record. They're not any kind of ranking. Yeah,
don't get mad,
there's
folks.
No ranking. Yeah. Austin, San Antonio area, they were combined on the list. They're obviously pretty close to each other relatively. Charlotte, South Carolina, Mexico City, Montreal, Nashville, Orlando, Portland, Raleigh, North Carolina, San Jose, California, and Salt Lake City, Utah.
All right. So out of that list, who do you think that you can immediately get rid of? Which ones are the ones that you're like, no, that's not going to work?
I think the one you can immediately get rid of is San Jose, California. And the biggest reason there is they still have territory rights with the Giants in that area that they've been trying to fight for years to try to get a team. And they've never broke through it. Chances are they're probably not going to. They have a huge TV market rating, right? They're number 10th in TV market rating. You can fight as much as you want. You haven't got through it yet. Why would we believe that they're all of a sudden going to make the Giants fold part of their territory to put a team there?
I would eliminate any California teams.
There you go.
You already have 3 teams in California.
Yeah, exactly.
You got the Giants, you got the Dodgers, you got the Angels. You don't need another team.
They cover the whole state. The other team that I would immediately eliminate would be Orlando, purely based on they don't have a place to put a stadium.
And the same problem with California. You already have the Tampa Bay Rays. You already have the Florida Marlins. The Miami Marlins. So they already have 2 teams in Florida already. So I think you can get rid of Florida too.
Now, the 2 that are tough for me are Montreal and Mexico City. They're obviously not in the U.S. Montreal has, they had the Expos before.
They're called the Washington Nationals, who are actually just up for sale. So yeah, I doubt that that's going to be a strong market that they're going to want to go back to. Same reason why they probably won't go back to Oakland is because they're not going to go back to a failed franchise city.
Right. A place that, and whether it was ownership or whatever may have happened,
no
offense to Oakland A fans. Okay.
Keep in mind, it's not about the fans. We understand Oakland fans.
We understand that ownership failed you. Okay. But the fact is you've tested that market. You were unsuccessful. You moved to a new market. Mexico City's an enticing one, man. I mean, that is a massive market. Massive. 9.2 million people in the area, 21.8 in the metro area. That is huge.
This is one that I think is a huge competitor for me. I think Mexico City, I mentioned before that we'd probably get one in Mexico and probably one in in Europe, probably like in London or something like that, if they wanted to expand internationally. So I do think that Mexico is definitely a possibility. The one thing that you mentioned before, though, on this before we talked about it, is that stadium, the elevation is worse than Coors Field.
Yeah,
like way worse.
Right.
So you think, which is really weird because the Dodgers threw a combined no-hitter there.
And they do have, they have a minor league stadium that seats roughly 20,000 people there, but that's not big enough for everyday MLB games.
No.
So they would need to find a new location and build a larger facility if they actually got an MLB expansion team. It's just not big enough.
Definitely let us know in the comments down below there what you think about that. Now, the other ones I think we can get rid of is Austin and San Antonio. You already have two baseball teams in Texas. You have the Rangers and you have the Astros. So both of them have won World Series in the last couple of years. You don't need a third team down there.
But again, a huge metropolitan area, right? Both those areas are 2.4, 2.6 million in one city, which is more than Salt Lake has in all of the metro area. But their TV market, both of those TV markets are worse than Salt Lake City's, though.
Exactly.
So
yeah. And also, we talk about Salt Lake City. You're not just pulling in Salt Lake City. You're pulling in from Wyoming, you're pulling in from Idaho, you're pulling in from basically kind of the Intermountain West, pretty much everywhere except for Colorado.
Same place you got Jazz fans.
Exactly. So I think you can't just look at the market and think there. So I think the North Carolina option, I think that's a good one, but I don't think that's likely. The most likely one back east, the one that's going to get is going to be Nashville. I think that's a done deal, pretty much.
Yep.
You'd be foolish not to go there, I think.
Yep. They do not have a stadium yet. There is some land near where the Titans are building their new stadium. They're in Nashville. There's a chance that is the most likely one to probably get a team, I would say, would be Nashville.
The other one I'd say would be a threat on the West Coast to Salt Lake City would be Portland.
Absolutely.
I think that's a possibility. Now that's close to Seattle, kind of right up there. I think they kind of want to break up the road trip a little bit, maybe have something kind of in the middle. So I still think Utah has the upper hand there, but I do think Portland has a good shot for sure.
Yeah, and these guys already do have a place for a stadium, right? They've already got some land. Like they've got 164 acres already owned by one of the majority owners of one of the other major league teams there in Portland, right down the road from Nike headquarters. They've got a spot that's also shovel ready.
Yep, they've got money too.
And they got money.
They've got money, man.
So Portland's going to be a tough one. We're obviously both cheering for Salt Lake City, which is the 29th in TV market rating. Mm-hmm. They've got 199,000 people in Salt Lake City, period, and then 1.26 million in the metro area. They do have a stadium, obviously already picked. They've already picked the power district. It has been claimed, quote unquote, shovel ready, right? The area is ready. They can, as soon as MLB expansion goes, they're ready to begin digging and putting up a stadium immediately. Big League Utah has been adamant, man. They're trying hard to make sure they push and get a team here in Salt Lake City.
Absolutely. And I thought that was super awesome. They try to get the A's there, but we'll definitely talk more about it next week on why I think it's a good thing that the A's aren't coming here. More to come on that. We love covering this, folks. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Based off these 10 locations, where do you think the best cities are for the teams? And also, who's the biggest threat to Salt Lake City to get those? We do kind of already all agree that Nashville's getting one of them, and that's the East Coast, right?
Yep.
So the West Coast team, because they want one East, one West. Who's the biggest threat to Salt Lake City on that side? Let us know in the comments down below for sure. All right, folks, keep in mind, if you are listening on our podcast or you're watching live on our podcast, this is available on YouTube as a YouTube video short, everything that we covered today. If you would like to see other videos on MLB and the possibility of Major League expansion, there's going to be a playlist listed right here. Be sure to click on that. There's also going to be a subscribe button right here in the middle. Make sure you click on that subscribe button so you miss out on any of our future videos. And if you're watching on YouTube on one of our short videos, just make sure you remember the whole episode is available as a podcast. You'll probably miss some of the stuff we talked about in this particular episode. There should be a link to that right there. Absolutely.